ask some questions, and then I'm going to let you guys ask some questions. And while I'm asking my stupid questions, do your best to just dig deep down into your souls and find out what a question is. And it's an inquisitive statement that really gets a response out of our guest, and not just something that you say in front of people. So just make sure that it's something to do with him and something that he can answer. That's preferably not a yes/no question. And we'll all look a whole lot less stupid. But I guess, I don't even know what to say. My girlfriend saw this movie for the first time. She's like, do you think I'll like Freaked? And I was like, I don't know how to describe this movie to you other than I think your mouth's gonna be agape. And she's just like, what the fuck is this the whole time? But I think she liked it. Yeah, she gave it a nod.
They used to say about Aerosmith shows back in the 70s, I remember I think it was Joe Perry who said that like the big misunderstanding about rock and roll in the 70s is that there were never women at the concert. Aerosmith would play, and they called it the Blue Jean Army. They'd look out in the audience, everybody would just be a bunch of dudes in blue jeans. That's my audience. So if you're a woman, and you're really pissed that your dude brought you here tonight, that is the story of my life.
But no, so, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of super amazing aspects about this movie. Like, the makeup work is incredible, like, your use of practical effects is so much fun. But one of, the most, jaw-dropping things whenever I saw this movie for the first time is the cast that you managed to assemble. And the fact that everybody seems completely 100% committed to it. And then it's just how did you get those people? And then what was what were you gonna be like? Hey guys, it's this kind of movie. How do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Honestly, everybody who made this movie loved the project and knew what they were getting into, including, to be fair, the studio. We just got caught up in a changing of the guard. The chairman that we made the movie for left, and the new chairman axed all that guy's movies. Otherwise, we would have been fine. But honestly, everybody that we made the movie with,
even Brooke Shields.
Even Brooke, I mean, you saw what she put herself through. I haven't watched the whole movie through in 15 years. So,
what'd you think?
It was really funny. But I'm a guy, so I find this kind of shit really funny. I mean, there's really dumb little stuff that I find funny. But Brooke, everybody was really committed. The only person who eventually burnt out was T. Poor T. About 3 days before he was supposed to be wrapped, he disappeared. He just disappeared. He was gone.
He disappeared and tried to be, I had it, I'm out of here.
No, that would not have been disappearing. That would have been a declarative statement that everyone would have fully understood. No, disappearing means he just disappeared. And we had days to shoot on him still. This was not a cheap movie. We had to find T. And they came and got me on set, and he was back home in Chicago. And I had the strangest 3-hour conversation trying to convince Mr. T to come back to the movie set, which I did not succeed in doing, but we did end up friends by the end of the call.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did he leave in the first place? I want to know at least.
Well-teed question. He said, when I was a baby, my mama called me Baby T. This is honest to God, I'm not kidding. And I'm on set, I'm not kidding. This is totally verbatim. And I'm on set, and time is ticking away, and there's a lot of money at stake. He's like, and then I was a boy. My mama called me Boy T. Then I became a man, and she called me Mr. T. She said, Mr. T, you don't let people make fun of you, Mr. T. You must have your dignity. And I can't wear a dress anymore. I wore that dress. It was so hot. And I wore that dress every day for so many months. I can't wear the dress anymore. I had to go home. I was like, well, I think that's kind of an open and shut conversation. So Lee Ehrenberg of Pirates of the Caribbean fame and all that jazz, who's an amazing actor, who plays the Eternal Flame, was always really good at doing Mr. T impressions on set. So all of the looping ADR we had to do in the movie was all Lee, because Mr. T had disappeared.
Yeah, I guess that was another thing that I noticed, because your makeup looks like probably the most uncomfortable prosthetic that I've ever seen on film. And it looks, did you guys have to do a ton of ADR for that? Because I remember the first time I watched it.
Well, it's all ADR, yeah. I mean, me and Stern, all the stuff we used to do was all ADR anyway. Idiot Box was all ADR, Squeal of Death was all ADR. We were really into ADRing everything anyway, because we thought it was funny. So I didn't mind ADRing all my dialogue. It was actually incredibly comfortable, except for the mouth rig. It had 2 servo motors in it. It was designed by Steve Johnson and Bill Corso. Bill Corso's won several Oscars. He's probably the greatest living prosthetics makeup designer in the world alive today. And we had the most amazing team on this movie. Him, Screaming Mad George, Tony Gardner from Alterian. I mean, the stuff these guys have done is like the biggest stuff that there is, and they're the best craftsmen at makeup to this day that there are. So, so Bill is a genius, and like the stuff that he did for my, I remember watching whatever Batman movie had Two-Face in it, and just thinking, nope, we did better. And that's Bill. Bill's a genius, and like the innovations he did to get my mouth to work, and I mean, it was amazing. So it didn't weigh anything. It didn't hurt. It took a long time to put on. Took a long time to put off. And what I ended up doing, because I was co-directing it, and I had no time, and I didn't have 8 hours on top of my shoot day, is I started sleeping in it. And so I would drive back to my hotel, and I would sleep in it, and I could get away with it. It would start to rot after like 4 or 5 days, but it meant I got sleep. So I was sort of like, do I have rotting stuff on my face, or do I have sleep? I remember one morning I went into the parking lot where I was staying, and it was like 5 in the morning. It was a dark underground parking lot, and I had this giant monster head on. And there were like 3 Korean businessmen who were walking to their car, and they stop and look at me and go, "Bill and Ted!" Another true story.
I feel like that's a good time to segue over. I don't know how to follow that up other than, did you think whenever maybe you were watching that Batman movie that you were just a better actor than Tommy Lee Jones?
It wasn't Tommy Lee Jones, was it? It was the other guy. It was Aaron Thingamabob. Oh, that's the other Two-Face.
Oh,
that one.
Yeah, no, I thought that's what you were talking about. Like you're sitting there watching like.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot about that
Carrey in like a spandex suit, and you're like, no, we're better.
Wasn't that one just makeup? Or are we doing totally tangential here? Isn't Tommy Lee just like some cheesy
I thought you were saying
rock,
you did
rock
better
and roll
than
music makeup? No,
right.
No, I'm thinking about the Chris Nolan one, right? Aren't I? Yes. Surely that's the one I'm thinking of. Okay.
No, that was Aaron Eckhart. You are correct.
Okay.
Does somebody have a question? Yeah.
I want to know about the giant Randy Quaid head. Did you let him keep it?
I had so much memorabilia. I mean, Catherine Hardwick, also from Texas, was our production designer. She went on to direct Twilight and all this other stuff. And she was really, honestly, one of the best production designers in Hollywood before she started directing. And her designs were so incredible. And then to watch them just get built, it was an amazing set to work on. I've worked on some really cool sets, but it was just so trippy, the stuff that she designed. So yeah, I had a bunch of freak carnival art of Catherine's all around my house. My favorite piece of memorabilia I kept, though, from all those days was I had the evil robot Bill head for years as a doorstop in my house. And that was awesome, until that too rotted eventually. I had a lot of rotting stuff lying around.
So does Randy Quaid have the head or not? I'm on the edge of my seat.
I'm not allowed to answer that question because the Star Whackers will come and kill me.
I think Randy Quaid is like a shirt and his wife. Somebody else? Way, you're the farthest in the back that I can go.
Can you talk a bit about Ortiz the dog boy and any of the limitations that you had with Keanu in that?
I had no limitations at all. It's really funny. He's credited in everywhere but in the U.S. And we were hanging out. This was actually a long time ago. We were hanging out at one point and talking about. He's like, "Why the fuck wasn't I credited in your movie?" And I was like, "I have no idea." We tried to get to the bottom of it. I'm assuming because we didn't pay his agent enough money. Like that was. I don't even remember what happened. All I remember is one conversation. It wasn't a conversation. I remember the producer we had was this guy Harry Uffland, who used to be like Scorsese's agent. He was like this great old Hollywood guy, and he talked like an old Hollywood agent like this. And he would only talk like this to us, and to everyone else he would scream. And I remember being in the production office and hearing from down the hall Harry screaming, "He's playing a fucking dog, for Christ's sakes! He's not getting $1 million!" So maybe that had something to do with why Keanu's name isn't on the movie. I honestly can't remember, but my guess is that's probably what it was. I mean, Reese and I are really close friends, so he was great. He was awesome. He had the toughest makeup job of anyone because the way Tony designed that dog makeup is literally hair individually glued to his body. Like that's how he has so much facial expression. And Keanu wanted the facial expression, so he had an option to go like the easy way or the hard way. And man, I mean, I'd get to set, it was like 90 degrees, and he would be sitting in the makeup chair with like hair being glued onto his face. It was like, poor guy.
Somebody else? Yeah, sorry, you thought it was you last time, but no, it's really you this time.
I love the Butthole Surfers, and I've watched the Welcome to Texas movie a lot. one of my favorite short films ever. And I was just wondering if you could talk more about the Butthole Surfers' involvement in the original version, and they got 2 little cameos during the movie, and just how that happened.
It's pretty short. I mean, the fact, it's kind of like I said at the front end, you know, we wrote it with Gibby. It was this really awesome, completely insane script. There were like human bongs and like, I mean, it was just so over the top. It was just like the psychedelic rock and roll musical. And we tried to get it made. There were like 3 movies that Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert, his partner, were trying to help us get made when we first got to Hollywood, and that was one of them. And we just couldn't get it made. It was so over the top. So you know, I'd love to have done something more expansive with them, but they were a lot of fun. I just saw Gibby in New York last week, and they're all doing great. But they are some of my favorite people in the world. We did a bunch of stuff with them. Entering Texas was the short film we made for Video Magazine that me and Tom directed that we shot here in Austin. And John Hawkes, who's the dad in that, is Cowboy in this. And he was living in Austin. It was a whole Austin fandango back then. And a funny story about that is we shot that. We all came down from LA. We rented a car we were supposed to take out of state. And it was like me and Tom and our DP. We shot the Buttholes in Austin. We stayed at their ranch in Driftwood. I don't remember much of that experience at all. I just remember that we bought a case of Shiner Bock and we were driving back and we broke down outside El Paso with a car that we weren't supposed to take out of state. And we holed up in some motel and we had no money and no food but a case of Shiner Bock. And it was a very strange 3 days. But we did eventually make it out of El Paso.
For the eventual Blu-ray release, you should just market it all around. Academy Award nominee John Hawkes as a cow.
Yeah.
The agent doesn't give a shit. He's like, whatever.
His name is on that goddamn movie.
I guess the one thing that I'm curious is like to know the origin of the movie. Like, was there several different incarnations along the way, or were you guys just gonna be like, well, we're making a movie. This is our first movie, and we're gonna throw like everything at it?
Oh yeah, we're both. We don't direct it anymore, but I'm the same way now, shooting just super prep heavy. So to be fair, we weren't gonna try to like hoodwink Fox into making a movie that we weren't gonna be very clear about. So it was the whole thing was storyboarded. And you know, to the letter, all the designs were done even before we pitched it. So the movie was kind of baked. It had to be. There were so many effects. It was so insanely ambitious that we couldn't do stuff on the fly. There was a little bit of stuff on the fly, but the movie was very much the movie. It was like a 3-year. The prep process alone was 2 years. So it wasn't something we could roll the dice on. So no, it was pretty prep.
I kind of wish you were just like 13 milkman costumes showed up. So we're like, yeah, there's a goof there.
Yeah, no. Some of the dialogue we kind of played with at the time, and we played with a lot in ADR. Again, we love ADR, so a lot of jokes got written in post. But still, it was kind of big. The thing is that me and Tom and Tim, the 3 of us that wrote it, we did the Idiot Box together, which they were showing some of at the beginning, and that was our show on MTV. And this was kind of the Idiot Box movie. Basically, what happened is MTV came back to us and asked us for a second season. And doing live action for MTV in those days meant you literally had to pay them to put your content on TV. I'm not sure it's actually different now, but then it was contractually written. So we couldn't afford to do another series of season of the Idiot Box, so we went and pitched this instead. So a lot of the gags from what would have been season 2 of the Idiot Box ended up in being this movie.
I like how it's an $18 million second season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else? Yeah.
Me?
Yes, you that said me.
What's your favorite role you've ever done?
I don't know. That's a tough question. People ask me that all the time. I don't know. Probably my grandmother in Bill and Ted 2. It was just so perverse, and you know, I try to kiss myself, and I've got like a mustache, and you know. But I don't know. It's a tough question. I mean, acting is fun, and you know, it's sort of like play. So I kind of enjoyed all of it. I guess honestly, the most fun I've ever had acting was doing the Idiot Box. So probably my favorite role I ever played was Willard Shrek on the Idiot Box. That was my favorite character that I ever embodied, which means it's probably close to who I am. So that's a really frightening idea.
Your favorite day working was not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there somebody in the balcony? Figure you guys sprung for the fancy seat so we could let you ask a question.
Where did you come up with ES?
Aha! I grew up on the East Coast, and there was this really cheesy local ad on TV for some clothing brand outlet. And the guy at the end of the ad would always go, "We've got everything!" everything except shoes. And it would he was like in this fancy suit, and it would pan down, and he wouldn't have any shoes on. I just thought that was the dumbest fucking thing I'd ever seen. So I'd been waiting to find something to put that in, and it's really funny. 20 years later, I'm sitting in the theater tonight watching the movie, and there's that shot where Alex Zuckerman is like walking under the tables, you know, and that's when like Billy Sadler and Randy started doing that back and forth. And I see that the ES guys are wearing shoes. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with us? Why are the ES guys wearing shoes? That's so stupid. Of course they should have been barefoot. And I never thought of that until tonight. Damn. That's why Fox wouldn't release it.
That's the takeaway.
Fuck, the chairman watching goes, those businessmen are wearing shoes. Fuck this. What's wrong with that movie? That or my wife hates it.
Yeah. Yeah, up here on the far left.
Yeah, what's Ricky carrying in the end when he comes in?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's cut out of the movie. The movie did get cut a lot in the post-process. There's 2 scenes that are in the European version that aren't in the movie. Those are on the Anchor Bay DVD release, double DVD release. It's now out of print, unfortunately. But if I remember this right, what happened was I think Stewie shows up and has a line about finding the. Oh, they're like, oh, if that's Sky Daily is Elijah, then where's the other Sky Daily? And I think he had a line like, oh no, it's cool, I found her and ate her, and like here's her entrails. Or it was like something like that, and like holds up her entrails. And believe me, he had to be there. It was funny. But there's like a couple of weird continuity jumps because of stuff that got cut. The original movie was actually edited by Bob Murawski, who cut for Sam Raimi and won the Oscar for Hurt Locker. And then we had another editor that came on who was more that Fox brought on. So.
Do you guys ever feel bad just shitting on Stewie nonstop?
No.
That was a yes no. See, that's how you don't do it, guys. Yeah. Somebody else with a question? Yes.
I'm a big fan of Screaming Mad George and Steve Johnston, and Bill Corp and all of them. Was there any sense of like competition between them, and also does Screaming Mad George speak English?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does speak English. We worked. I won't make it so like for people who aren't into makeup effects, but these guys are all they are all super legendary effects guys. George was the first one that we went to, and we went to George when it was a Buttholes movie, and George designed all those freaks, and I have illustrations for those, and they're really amazing. So George really kept fighting to do the whole movie. Like, I can do the whole movie. The whole movie. And we were like, no, you can't. There's no way. He eventually had 2 characters and could barely do them because they were so over-the-top ambitious. But I wouldn't say it was competition. I think everybody fought to get more of the characters, you know? And then they started doing the movie, and they were like trying to get the other person to do stuff because it was so much labor. It was an insane amount of labor. If you went to our set, it was like, it looked like you were like on a major war campaign. There were so many effects tents everywhere. They were huge, and they were everywhere. And there were all these different teams under each one. Each one of those characters had like 10 to 15 people individually working on that one character, whether it was applying the makeup or running the servos for their, the various motors that they needed to function. So it was just a ridiculous set to be on from that standpoint, given that it wasn't like Lord of the Rings or an enormous tentpole. It was this really weird, crazy cult movie.
It's like how many times you said the words butthole movie tonight.
Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't know the Butthole Surfers, is like, man, Alex Winter really into weird porn. Yeah, somebody else? Yeah.
Awesome. What would you say to a young filmmaker or filmmakers in the audience?
Is it you? Or are you asking what he's going to say?
Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of filmmakers in here that are very influenced by practical effects, and is there any kind of like advice that you'd say to them, given that we're living in a CGI, industry right now?
Yeah, learn Photoshop. The thing is, you guys know what happened on Jurassic Park was they got all the people from the stop motion houses and they brought them up to ILM and they trained them on SG machines and taught them how to do wireframe computer animation. And so, I'm kind of 2 minds. I think that there's a lot of horrible CG. I do a lot of effects-driven work, and I have for years. I do a lot of commercials and big effects and stuff. And there's a lot of horrible pixel-painted movies now that just are really boring because there's no suspension of disbelief. It really just looks like they were painting pixels. And I find those movies pretty boring. But there's also amazing stuff going on, and it does take an artist to make those things. So there are amazing artists working in CG. I just think that we're in a transitional phase with everything. So we had this conversation last night, 'cause my other movie, we're into this sort of painful transition. And so, unfortunately, Hollywood, rightfully they want to make money. They sort of get this stuff and they grab it and they just beat it to death until you want to shoot yourself. And so we have one sort of pixel painting crappy movie after the other. But I do think that there is room for practical effects. And there are, in really good movies, like a good Guillermo del Toro movie, there are plenty of really big tentpole Peter Jackson directors who use a lot of practical effects in tandem with the CG. There are a lot. It's just we get subjected to these really crappy, sort of, cranked out CG movies. But I think in the future that we are going to have a really good blend. And there's plenty of room for people in the entertainment industry. There's a huge need for brilliant practical effect artists. It's not like they can't get work anymore. A lot of them have gone into the CG side, but there are plenty that are still doing hands-on practical effects. But I think we will see more of that down the road. In terms of filmmakers in general, I think it's a golden age for film. I think that the fact that you can pick up your iPhone and make a movie and distribute it on YouTube is like, we couldn't do that. I think that the onus is on the filmmaker today to learn how to tell stories so well that you bust through the clutter. And I think that's a good challenge to have, because that means we're going to have better stories. Because the people who can't do that are just going to get lost in this blob of digital waste that we mostly live in today.
Yeah, somebody else? Have you already asked a question? All right, then it's you.
Were there any freaks you had in mind that didn't make it into the movie?
Yeah. We have sketch upon sketch upon sketch. And then we have all kinds of really nasty, un-PC ones that we couldn't do.
Like what? No, we're in a room full of
buttholes, of course. I don't know. It just...
No. You know exactly what you're thinking of.
I'll put it on the interwebs. I'll upload it to the interwebs. I've got all this great art for this crazy stuff. We were just like throwing spaghetti in. It took us a long time to figure out what Ricky was going to be. We settled on this half creature, which was, from an effects standpoint, almost physically impossible to achieve. The guys couldn't believe that's what we wanted to do. But we had all kinds of ideas for Ricky for a long time. But yeah, we had. The thing is we both loved the Todd Browning movie, and we both knew a lot about freaks and freak shows and carnival acts, and so we had like Flipper Boy type characters. We had some stuff that was more like regular freaks. I watched it tonight. It's one of my favorite gags in a movie, and no one ever laughs because it's not really funny unless there's something wrong with you. But the nosy scene where he's in the gorilla suit, to me, is like the funniest stuff. Honest to God. I mean, that just makes me laugh. And tonight I was even like, God damn, that is so funny. And yet it isn't funny at all. And the reason I say that is because it comes from, like, at heart, this movie did grow out of a fascination that me and Stern have with the original sort of notion of the kind of carnival / vaudeville days, and what posed as entertainment in those days, and how kind of pure and theatrical and baroque that was. And now we live in, now we have reality TV, and the equivalent is like Mob Wives or something, right? It is kind of like you sort of watch these things going, they're kind of freakish, but I can't stop watching them. But we don't have. I'm not even joking. But, really not joking. But you know what I mean, like reality TV and stuff like that. So it was really just the end of an era, and that kind of stuff. The whole notion of the theatricality was sort of at the heart of what we loved about the story in a way that isn't, not even really cynical. It was kind of a fun way to dive into that world.
Yeah, somebody else got
Someone
one?
else had a question.
Yes.
Hey, if you're no longer working on the gate, do you still, or would you like to still, make another amazing movie like this movie? Please say yes.
It's really not easy to get movies like this made. It was kind of an accident we got this one made. I think the gate will probably happen at some point. It's not in my hand. It's in film finance land. And I'm working on a remake of the gate with the original producers, and we've done a lot of work, R&D work on the effects, and we're mixing CG and practical and all this stuff. And it's not easy to get movies made where kids are in jeopardy anymore. And the kids in my version of the gate are in serious jeopardy. you can see what we do to little kids. So yeah, we'll see if it gets made, and who knows. But if it does, it'll be fun. It's like a carnival ride. It's totally insane. But hopefully we'll get it off the ground.
Yeah, somebody else?
Can you talk a little bit about the opening credits sequence?
Yeah.
The original time,
Yeah, it's Dave Daniels, who's a genius, a literal artistic genius. He did our Idiot Box titles too, and he did the Peter Gabriel Big Time. He did a bunch of really big videos. But Dave he invented a form of claymation called stratacut, where he would build the whole sequence into a loaf of clay, and he would cut the layers off to create each frame. It's incredible. I mean, I can't even get my head around it. I mean, I watched him do it, so I know how he did it, but it's really one of the most mind-blowing things to watch. So it has this extremely aggressive quality to it, but it's all totally practical. It's just take snap a frame, cut a slice, snap a frame, cut a slice, and he builds the whole. They will build practical elements into that, like hamburgers and tin cans and whatever. It's amazing. You can see that he did a demo on the title, free titles on Art of the Title on that website. So you can find it there. It's amazing. He is amazing. And the opening music is Blind Idiot God and Henry Rollins. And what happened is after that chairman got canned from Fox and we kind of lost all of our support, we had this incredible soundtrack that was ready to go. We had Iggy Pop and Motorhead and the Chili Peppers and all these huge bands, and we couldn't afford them anymore. So we really just went to all of our friends like Blind Idiot God and the Buttholes, and we sort of pulled the music of the movie together using people we knew, including P-Funk. We got to do the end title track, and it was the only time that Bill Clinton, well, if only, that would be awesome. Oh yeah, that's Bill Clinton in the movie in a dress. He was Nosy the Nose Man. It was the only time that we had George Clinton and Bootsy together, so it was like this amazing moment. And we spent, like, Fox said, we'll give you X amount of money for your soundtrack. We took all of it and just paid for the P-Funk song. We were like, we don't care if we never end music again. We got P-Funk back together for it. Awesome.
We only have time for about 2 more, so now it's time to dig deep and be like, you know what, this is a good question, and I'm going to ask it towards the end. So don't be intimidated now. I'll just be gigantic pussies with your hands down. We can get out of here. Somebody, yeah.
Okay, you directed the Ben 10 movie. Do you like the superhero movies?
I don't know. I mean, they were fun to do. I did them because of my son sitting over there, who was a Ben 10 fanatic, and so we had fun on that. He designed some creatures, and we got to pal around on a project. But I don't know if I'd do another superhero movie. I'm not, I'm not entirely in love with the medium. I think it's amazing when it's done well. It's often, for me, my taste, not done so well. My favorite one is Spider-Man 2. That gives you any inclination of the kind I would make. I like them when they're entertaining. I like them when they're not trying to, give me Nietzschean philosophy coming from the mouth of a man who's wearing a cape and bat ears. I have a suspension of disbelief issue with that, personally. But there are great movies out there. There's great effects, and if the right one came along that I felt I could do something with, because I do like working with effects, practical and CG. So. But I can't tell you how awesome it was to see this in a theater and that you guys all came out. It really was great. And you guys were a great audience. You laughed at all the right spots. You laughed, period, which is good. And most of you are still here, and it isn't just the men. So that's a victory for us. Thank you.